What is up, everyone? Welcome back to Just a Minute. I'm your HoopSeen host, Austin Smith, and as always, I'm joined with my brother, my guy, Mr. Justin Young, who is our editor-in-chief here at HoopSeen.com. Just a Minute is a show where we bring you the latest and greatest in grassroots basketball, so let's go ahead and get right to it. First off, Jay White, you're wearing some nice swag there, brother. I peeped it.
We're leveling up, bro. We're leveling up. Got a nice little hoodie. It's hoodie season no matter where you are in the country. I think as we get into our season coming up, you'll see some new HoopSeen gear at our events, whether it's back in the South or whether it's out here in the West. We're going to level up a little bit. We got your swag. I'm excited to kind of get a little preview out there for folks. But yeah, this is our official gear for our staff, man, moving forward. So I'm excited about, hey, look good, play good, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's just what JY means by that simply, everyone, is if you see me wearing a HoopSeen hoodie, like, it's mine. Okay, you all will get y'all's in fair time, but I'm getting mine. I had to wait for mine. JY got his. We can trust later.
Yeah, we'll get some stuff out there. Trust me, the wait will be worth it. The wait will be worth it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, let's go ahead and get this show started off the right way. JY, let's get our things going with the buzz, man. What is the buzz, the latest and greatest, I guess you could say, event-wise? You were just recently in the West Coast attending the Latitude Classic, and a heavy-hitting game between AZ Campus Prep and Dream City Christian. I'm going to let you take over from here because the game was bananas. Tell us about the experience. What did you take away from that event?
Yeah, the grind session is back, and what we learned last year, we had some high-level games going on out here in Phoenix, and of course, the number one team in the country, AZ Campus Prep, everybody has them in a bullseye, and their crosstown rival, Dream City Christian, was up on the schedule right out of the gate. November 13th, we got freaking March heat going on out here in Arizona, and I loved it. It was a terrific matchup. It was a back-and-forth battle. Really, actually, no, it wasn't. Dream City, I think, had AZ Campus Prep up against the ropes, and they were just rabbit punching them the whole time. Johan Traore came out firing, looked really, really good to get started. You had Bill Self and Curtis Townsend of Kansas sitting right there in the front row, watching Johan, who's one of their prime targets. And Johan, this is their first game, too, without Shaden Sharp for Dream City Christian, so to kind of set the table. And AZ Campus Prep is a team just absolutely stacked. I was there for signing day. They got 5 guys that signed Division I. They have 7 other guys that are going to be Division I prospects as well. So here you have a team that's absolutely loaded. Dream City's no shrink to them either. I mean, they've got a roster full of guys that are talented enough to be a top 50 guy, a top 20 guy, obviously a roster that's loaded. So when you have these two types of team matching up, I think they're 2 of the top 10 teams in the country. We were going to be there, baby. We weren't going to miss that game. And that game was exactly what we wanted to see. Dream City was awesome throughout. I thought Oklahoma bound guard Milos Uzan, I love him. I absolutely love that guy's game. I thought was tremendous in the second half and had him up against the ropes. But ultimately, it was Campus Prep and Kylan Boswell at the buzzer, pull up 3, waved off a screen, pull up a Steph Curry type of shot, boom, ball game. It was fantastic and really – if that is an indication of what the season's going to look like across the country, we are in store for a monster scholastic season, man. So excited to be there. We've got coverage up on HoopSeen.com right now. So go peep the video on Twitter, on Instagram. Go read my story. It was, it was a game that I won't forget. Awesome game.
Joe, you mentioned one thing, too. You talked about this game being the type of game we see in March, it being one of those heavy-hitting battles. Do you think in your mind, with college basketball having fans, with the NBA being back, like players are playing with more of a sense of urgency at this point of the season?
Yeah, I think so. It's interesting because we've had so many, high-level stuff in the fall that we don't normally have, right, as far as showcases. And, the Border League was really good, and the Great Western Classic, and there's really good events down in Florida, and these October type of warm-up events where we usually are running preview camps and individual showcases. Right. It kind of ramps up the narrative a little bit more now where we've got some of these top teams. I'm not a big fan of preseason rankings. I don't quite understand them. I don't really know what the value is with those. But when you have those things out there and you have somebody that says, hey, we're the top team in the country already, even though we haven't played any games, obviously there's going to be some narratives that want to get squashed and people want to come out and really kind of establish themselves well, no, we think we're better. And so I do think it adds a layer of competitiveness that maybe we haven't had. And usually too, it's around Thanksgiving where we usually see a lot of these matchups start to happen. So we're fast forwarding a little bit. But I think it just goes to show that basketball is a 24-hour a day, 365 days a year sport at a really highly competitive level. And again, man, I thought this game, there were some early season tweaks that I think both teams would like to go through, but man, this felt like a postseason game that had a lot on the line. So, let me actually kind of spin it off a little bit more too. Like I'm new to Arizona, and I'm also a traditionalist when it comes to high school basketball. Like I like the high school basketball, the high school in your neighborhood, and the school that everybody kind of grew up. And these are the guys you played with since you're in middle school and you're playing with them in high school. Like that, I like that. I prefer that. That's my flavor of basketball. However, I'm not too dumb to think the game is evolving now where we've got schools that have kids from all over the country. And so here you have AZ Compass Prep and Dream City Christian. Neither one of those are traditional high schools or traditional schools, but yet it felt like a rivalry game with guys that are from all over the country. And there was a competitive layer there that I haven't felt with a lot of other types of prep school versus prep school thing. Maybe you get that with IMG and Montverde. But like, it was really kind of cool to see. And that's, I think, how we're evolving the game a little bit now, where we have these really highly created teams where that did feel like an actual rivalry game. It was a packed crowd, a lot of students there. I mean, it was actually a really cool experience. And so it did make me think, is Arizona now becoming a real basketball state? Because here you have AZ Compass, Dream City Christian, two top teams in the country, and a game like that felt like there was this movement towards that narrative more and more, even though it's not a traditional high school versus traditional high school type of setting. So I thought it was great. I thought it was great for the game. And again, if that's an indication of what we're in store for this year for Scholastic basketball, we have an unbelievable 4 months ahead of us, 5 months or however many months we've got.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you on that. And let me say this, sign me up to be for the fan bus of the people who are saying that Arizona is becoming a basketball state. I've got to agree with you. It's more and more, and maybe they don't fully push the narrative to a few more years from now, but the talent is coming out of the state of Arizona, and you see it. You see guys going to big schools, playing at the next level, the competition rising, and it's starting at the high school level. It's translating out to the college level. So again, you talk about the credit to all the coaches, the players involved in the state of Arizona to building what is now another hub of basketball on the West Coast, man, and it's pretty interesting to see. So
it reminds me so much of the state of Florida. It reminds me so much of Florida, the way that Florida's evolved into that, which again, I think is just, good. The more chances you can have high competitive basketball, I think you make guys better because every game matters. Not that they don't already, but like there's an elevated sense that the competition is just a little bit better.
Yes, sir. No, I agree with you at 1,000%. Let's keep moving to our next segment, JY. We got to talk about the winner of the week. Is there a school that had a great signing, a great commitment that allowed them to really become a winner in our eyes that will help their program in the years to come? And was there a player that possibly won because of their school choice as well?
If you follow us on social media, you saw all the videos that you and I did and all these player blurbs, and we talked about some of the wins. During the early signing period week, we knew there were going to be some commitments that happened during this week where guys could sign early. And we've covered Colin Chandler out of Farmington, Utah, pretty exclusively here on the channel. And I always thought it was going to come down to Stanford and Utah. I felt really strong about that. And as we kept evolving, I thought, okay, maybe it's not Stanford. Maybe Utah now is in the driver's seat. And everybody was like, well, BYU, like, what about BYU? I'm like, I don't know, man. I just got the sense that that's probably going to be the Pac-12. Well, here we go. Colin Chandler made a big, I think, surprise decision to a lot of people and ended up going to BYU. And I think the main reason why he ended up picking Provo over the teams out in the Pac-12 was ultimately the Big 12. I think the Big 12 is what won it out. We talked about it in our blurb if you go back again to social media and see our Colin Chandler blurb. But I think BYU had a significant win. I think he's a McDonald's All-American type of talent. He's going to go on a 2-year mission, and he's going to be a class of 2024 prospect. And if you can get that type of player committed for that far down the road, and as you move into the Big 12, I thought BYU was the real winner of last week during the early signing period with Colin Chandler deciding to stay home and go be a Cougar.
Well, there you have it. Winner, chicken dinner, JY. Man, congrats to BYU. And again, you talk about having a prospect that'll help them along the lines. And Colin Chandler, he is that guy. Absolutely, for sure. We'll definitely.
Can I give you a part 2 winner of the week?
You know what? Go ahead, man. Let's get the people what they want. Go ahead.
I think Prolific Prep has to also be a winner of the week because we talked so much about AZ Compass over the weekend and with Dream City Christian. I'm watching Prolific, even going back to last month in Las Vegas at the Border League. Man, every time I see Prolific, I think they are probably one of the toughest starting 5 there is in the country.
Okay.
And they're so good and they're so big and they're good at all the positions. I think Trey White is probably one of the unsung heroes of that team. You got MJ Rice going to Kansas. You got a Dem Bona, who's, man in the middle, who's absolutely terrorizing people inside as a shot blocker. You got Dior Johnson playing out there. But I think Trey White is a guy that's going to cause a lot of problems for USC. We've talked a lot about USC's class. We haven't talked a lot about Trey White. The more I watch him, the more I think he's a high-value guy. Reminds me a little bit of Dylan Brooks, who plays for the Memphis Grizzlies. I think Trey White could be an absolute steal for them if he gets used in that rotation at USC, which also makes frontline of the whole rotation of prolific prep one that could be a contender for a national championship at the end of the year. Very, very good team. I think they also won the weekend, had some really good showings out there. I really like this team a lot, and that's a team that I think is probably, if it's possible to be prolific prep and be a little undervalued, I think they fall into that category early on in November, and that probably needs to change. I think they're one of the top 5 teams that I've seen in the country.
Well, if you can catch a prolific prep game online or live in person, do so. The J-Watch stamp of approval, it means serious business. So check out Prolific Prep this year while you guys can, man. A loaded roster. Again, arguably one of the top 5 teams in the country. You want to pinpoint and keep an eye on as this 2021-2022 season continues to go on. Real quick, JY, I want to remind everyone and let everyone know that today's episode, in addition to just a minute, is brought to you by the HoopSeen Tip-Off, the premier and absolute best tournament to start your travel ball seasons up in 2022. We will have spots on the West Coast and here in Atlanta. And listen, if you want to get your season started the right way, if you want to match up and see how good your team will be and get those preseason adjustments done early, you want to be at the HoopSeen Tip-Off. Great facilities, great venue, great location, easy transfer for your teams and coaches and player staff to already be able to come on and hang out and compete for a good weekend. And yes, you will be able to compete at a high level. The HoopSeen Tip-Off for the past few years has been that starting ground for teams to really see where they'll level out come May, come July. So you want to make sure teams, if you're on the East Coast and if you're on the West Coast, you're a part of the HoopSeen Tip-Off. You can register on hoopseen.com/events. And from there, you'll be able to get your team squared away. The HoopSeen Tip-Off in 2022 is back. 2 locations. We want to make sure we see you and your team there next year. Okay, Jay, well, let's keep this ball rolling. One big thing I love talking with you about is because you're able to give a great analysis on who's still available, who's hot. And I got to ask you, man, who's the best player available nationally right now? Ton of prospects, but who is the best get for college coaches right now?
Yeah, I think it's Mark Mitchell. I think Mark Mitchell, the Wichita, Kansas. He's out there in Wichita, Kansas, rather at Sunrise Christian. I think he's our he's a top 10 guy, our number 10 guy overall in the country. It's interesting. I looked at it this morning. Here it is Monday when we're recording this. There's only 10 players left on our HoopSeen 100 that are undecided as to what they're going to do, whether it's going to be playing college, going pro. Only 10 guys. Mark Mitchell's one of those guys. He's our number 10 guy overall. He's down to a couple schools. I think he's down to UCLA. I think he's down to Kansas. I think Missouri. I think Duke also is in there a little bit. But I think when you look at this class in totality, he's the top guy that's still left on the board. If he doesn't sign early, again, we're recording this on Monday, I think he's going to be a guy that sees his recruitment take all kinds of twists and turns throughout the scholastic year. He's playing for a great team in Sunrise Christian, and we know that the high majors, the blue bloods, are right after him. So I don't know what he's going to do. If you talk to any of those schools and any staffs at any of those schools, they'll ask you, what's going on with Mark Mitchell? I'm like, I don't know. They don't know. Only Mark Mitchell and his family kind of knows what's happening. So he's our top overall guy as we wrap things up for the early signing period. Mark Mitchell out of Sunrise Christian is our top available guy still left in the class of 2022.
I love it. I love it. And one thing that's pretty cool, JY, is we talk about these players who continue to blossom and elevate their games.
Yeah.
Mark Mitchell is a testament to the work. You see him continue to put in work in year after year, and now he's at a spot where he's one of the prospects that will probably get some phone calls, some text messages from schools, and everybody's story is different. You've said that countless number of times before, JY. Just go through that for a quick second. Why is it important just to stay the course for your own individual career?
Well, you never know what's going to happen, right? You never know what's going to happen with a college coach. You never know if somebody's going to go pro. You never know if someone's going to transfer. You never know if you're going to get hurt. You never know if you're going to grow 3 inches. So you never know what's ahead of you. All you can be is great in that moment. You got to keep working. And so that's part of it. Listen, we're not talking about Mark Mitchell's not a sleeper. I mean, this guy's a defined top 10 guy. He's a USA basketball guy. We know about Mark Mitchell, terrific player, but we see the narrative change so many times in recruiting. Look at look at the way the draft works and look at how players leave early, and look, like right now, everyone's happy about where they're at in college, but as rotations start to get established and you go from playing 20 minutes, maybe down to 5 minutes, maybe your situation is as you once thought it was. And so roster turnover. So are you always ready to step in, and are you doing enough in your game? I ask players this all the time. What can you do as a freshman that's going to help your team in college so you can be on the floor right away? Like, what are you going to bring to the table that a coach is going to go, I can't keep that guy on the bench. I've got to have him ready to get him into the game. Or is he good enough that we can start him? So what value can you bring to a program from day one and how are you cultivating that now as a 17, 18-year-old, 19-year-old high school kid before you become a freshman in college?
Good deal. I love it. I love it. Okay, here's our next segment, JY. Knock, knock, knock. Hi, my name is Baye Ndungo, right? And make sure I got that right.
Yeah.
This kid needs some introduction. He needs some love. It's time for the people to realize who he is as a prospect, JY. I'm going to let you introduce him to the world on today's segment of Hi, my name is...
Yeah, Baye Ndungo out of Colorado Prep. He's the new guy there on the scene for the new startup program out of the state of Colorado. I'm really intrigued by him. I saw him back in the last month up in Las Vegas, and up in did I see him in Las Vegas or Utah? I can't remember. Those 2 weekends were back to back. Nevertheless, I thought he was the guy. I saw him in Vegas. That's where it was. It was a back gym wonder over there at the Border League, and I left there. I was like, oh, okay, this dude's legit. And so, Xavier Silas is now in the NBA. He's a guy that played in the NBA. I covered him as a prep. It's his program. And he told me, Justin, I think this guy's a top 50 guy. And you know me, I'm always the guy that says, whoa, hold on, everybody, slow down a little bit. Let's not get too excited. But I actually think Xavier's right. I think Baye Ndungo is an absolute top 50 guy for the class of 2023. The more I watch him, the more he becomes accustomed to the game here in the United States. I think he's an absolute high major guy and a guy that could come and play right away. Saw that over the weekend here at the grind session. And I thought back to where he was in Las Vegas. He's already posted a 2020 game. Okay. He plays above the rim, highly athletic, highly competitive, very aggressive, really good shot blocker, pretty skilled, good passer. But I think Baye Ndungo is a player that we're going to hear a lot about moving forward, and is a top 50 guy for me in the class of 2023 early on. So if you don't know about him, go see some YouTube clips. I'm sure they're starting to come out there now, but certainly worthy enough of that type of coverage over at the grind session over the weekend. I'll see him a ton this year. I'm excited to see where his trajectory moves forward. But Baye Ndungo, yeah, I think this guy is legit.
Hey, if you don't know, now you know. JY just told you who Baye Ndungo was, man, a player to keep your eye on. Appreciate that insight, JY. You always give me some players to keep an eye on, man, and go back and YouTube. I've YouTubed like so many players. Let me check this kid out too. Because again, you never know who the next prospect may be. And here's a kid you want to keep an eye on, and that you'll probably hear his name buzz even more and more as the season goes on.
No question.
Stuff, JY. Good stuff. All right, let's keep it moving. Last segment of the day. We got to talk about some of these young fellas. All right, got to talk about the kids, man. There's some new kids on the block, JY. And for you, I know you always get the question asked, well, hey, come check me out. Come check me out. And these younger prospects sometimes who aren't ready fully yet to be evaluated. But then there are also some prospects in the underclassmen classes who are. Let's go to Orange, Our Savior Lutheran in New York. Tell us about who's caught your eye from their program.
It's funny. I'm over there at the opening game, and I'm excited to kind of get started. And when the very first game that you're trying to find your rhythm, just like a player, right? And for me, like, I'm a sucker for a big guard. I've always been a sucker for a big guard, 6'3" point guard that can play with some speed and some quickness. And I don't have the rosters yet. I'm still trying to figure out who everybody is and trying to do the old peek over the shoulder, the scorekeeper kind of trick, try to catch a name.
That works. My
eyes are so bad I can't read. And so I'm watching the game. My friend Greg Rosenberg from Prep Hoops Prep Hoops Arizona, comes over and he's like, hey, what do you think about the guard? I'm like, that's the guy that I like. And we both are really excited about Christian Jones. And I think he's a guy that we're going to be hearing a lot about, a 6'3" guard out of Northeast, out of Our Savior Lutheran in New York. I think he's a guy that's going to be a Big East type of guard. Love his pace, love his control. I thought he passed really well. I thought he attacked the basket really well. I'm excited to see more of him in the grind session. They're going to be back out here in Arizona over the weekend. So I'm going to see him one more time. But Really like Christian Jones, a class of 23 guard. I think he played himself into the conversation as a player that should be on high major radars. Usually I like to keep this section for sophomores and freshmen, but I haven't seen too many yet. So we'll get some guys in there. So that means a junior is going to play his way into the dialogue. Christian Jones, you're going to want to keep your eyes on him and see where his career goes moving forward. But did enough for me to get excited. And again, love a big guard, and that's what he is. And that's why he's now inside of our HoopSeen search database.
Yes, sir. Christian Jones, you are on the radar, my brother. We're HoopSeen taking over your game, man. Keep building, keep crafting. All right, JY, that concludes our long list of segments for the day. But before we sign off, man, anything from you that you want to let the people know today, or anything they could check out for in the weeks to come?
Yeah, our staff, we're everywhere. The season's getting started. We got the Jared Cook Classic starting up, tipping us off in the state of Georgia. Of course, we're going to be there at North Gwinnett. It's an event that we've been a part of for a long time. I covered Jared when he was a high school player years ago, and every once in a while, he may be my fantasy football team. That's all I'm saying. So I always try to support the local guys. And we love that event. Josh Tech will be over there. We know DeCortland Christian's going to be. If there's a gym in the state of Alabama, we know DC is going to find his way into it. Brianna Patton certainly is going to be in some action. We've got Holiday Hoopsgiving coming up with there in Atlanta. So I know that you'll be there. Jannard Hartley will be there. We got all of our staff going to be all over the place. So a lot of good things cooking up. It's a great time of year to be in the gym. If you're a fan, if you're watching this, if you're still with us here on the pod, tag us on HoopSeen. Let us know where you're going. Let us know what you're seeing. We know there's tons of events out there, and we look forward to having like a crowdsourced type of reporting for what's going on from coast to coast. Give us some tips. You see a guy out there, again, big guard, 6'3" sophomore, run a show, let me know. I want to go see this dude. So that's the best part of it. And so, we'll have you covered big time over at HoopSeen. So if you're not already an insider to HoopSeen.com, you're going to want to become one. Pick one of our states that we've got you covered in: the Carolinas, Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, out here in Arizona, out in the West. Becoming an insider, we got you covered for less than 50 cents a day. It's a great deal for what we do every single day on HoopSeen.com.
Good deal. Well, there you have it, everyone. Also, again, for players, coaches, and teams, this episode today was sponsored by the HoopSeen Tip-Off. March 2022, it's going down. Spots on the East Coast and West Coast. You want to make sure you're there. You can check out and register for that event on hoopseen.com/events. Make sure you're ready to go to get your travel ball season started off the right way in 2022. Well, everyone, thanks again for tuning in. I'm your HoopSeen host, Austin Smith, and the man with the plan is our editor-in-chief here at hoopseen.com. He is Justin Young. On behalf of JY and I both, man, thanks for tuning in today, and we look forward to seeing you near some basketball action very soon.